Hello guys, welcome to the video where I rebut another misinformed console peasant. Here's the thing. He says that a lot of PC gamers, in fact the majority of PC gamers, pirate video games and they do all this stuff. They put down console peasants for the stuff that they say, and that doesn't make for a great PC community, and therefore he does not appreciate being called a PC gamer. He says himself in the beginning of the video, he does not like calling himself a PC gamer. I'm here to discuss the reasons why he's wrong, especially in terms of piracy and in terms of our community and defending our integrity. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Thanks.
What's poppin', people? I'm TheRatedD and I've tested positive for swag.
Do you say this in all of your videos?
Now, I didn't want to have to make this video.
But obviously, somebody forced your hand and is holding a gun to your head because you just had no choice but to make this video. Because you're so weak-willed that you just had to make this video against your wishes. Well, come to think of it, your overlords at Microsoft and Sony also seem to be holding guns to your heads.
Because I myself am a PC gamer.
Now, because you're going to argue how games run poorly on your computer from your experience and using anecdotal evidence, I frankly don't believe you unless you can provide me with some specific specs about your computer that make it so either bad or good.
Though I'm not someone that exclusively games on PC.
Nobody's asking you to.
PC is, really my second or third choice. I'm primarily a PlayStation gamer.
Well, at least you have some sense in you.
I also like Nintendo quite a bit. And PC and Nintendo kind of switch around for second or third place. It depends on, the time of year, what games are out, things like that.
Fair enough.
But I'm ashamed of myself to be calling myself a PC gamer sometimes when I see how the PC community behaves here on the internet.
That's like saying I'm ashamed to be calling myself a German because of World War II and what happened with the Nazis and the Jews. Just because I'm German doesn't make me a Nazi, and just because I'm a PC gamer doesn't make me an elitist. So there's two completely different categories, okay? So stop overgeneralizing and making every PC gamer sought out to be one of the Nazis when they're not.
Recently, I've seen someone really start to get a lot of attention. I think his name is Rags.
As I've mentioned previously, Rags is one of my inspirations for doing this. However, that I'm not going to try to defend him. All I'll say is he does provide facts and statistics for what he believes. He's not biased in any sort of way. He just goes by the facts. That's all I'm going to say for this, and I'm going to skip the part that he starts talking about him.
I don't understand why people like him feel the need to bash on these console peasants. I don't understand it, because PC has its fair share of problems that these PC nerds don't want to accept.
No, we just accept the PC even with all of its flaws. We accept the flaws, we just think that the pros outweigh them much more than a console does. A console has a very short list of pros, where the PC has a long list of them, which I go over in my first video. So, that's not true.
Let me just run through a few.
And you really do mean a few, because that's only how many PC problems there are in my experience.
Real quick, okay, because I'm totally 100% unbiased.
Wow, it kind of sounds like you're saying, wow, I totally didn't murder this person. See, when you're unbiased, you don't have to mention it to your audience. Just let your facts and your speech dictate for itself.
And I call it like I see it,
And what you see is a distorted version of reality without any proof or backing with what you say.
Now, as an Assassin's Creed fanboy, I still enjoyed Assassin's Creed Unity quite a bit, okay? And I got that on PS4. Now, the game at launch, yes, it had technical problems, yes, it had frame rate problems.
We're going to come back to this, so please go back and remember what he said, because I'm going to refer back to it.
but the game still worked. You know, there were some levels early on in the game, you know, that there are these stained glass windows in these churches where when you were around them, the frame rate would dip quite a bit.
That sounds like poor optimization, don't you think?
Sometimes when you're around Notre Dame, the frame rate would dip.
Again, terrible optimization.
There was also a sneaking mission early on. In that mission, there were some frame rate drops as well. But at the end of the day, there weren't that many areas where the frame rate was bad. Okay.
Got any stats? Because I'm starting to beg a different matter. See, all the things you described, Notre Dame, a pretty damn large and important part of that game. Then there's stained glass windows, and then the amount of AIs and stuff on the screen. I mean, that's a big deal, especially since Assassin's Creed Unity has a lot of big gang fights sort of thing. There's a lot of people fighting in one scene most of the times.
Okay, and again, at the end of the day, the game was still playable.
Oh, it was playable on both platforms. It was just shitty on both platforms as well. It's the devs' fault, not the platforms.
The characters still looked right. Compare that to PC, where many people couldn't even run the game. For a lot of people, the characters were not showing up on screen properly. You guys saw those now infamous bugs.
Alright, let me hit you up with some sources here. The following information comes from GameRant.com. The link is in the description. Go check it out. Alright, this doesn't look like the whole article, but of course, it's just excerpts that I took from it. A lot of it is explaining the problems that Unity had upon release, but I found these two most important quotes from the article. If you want to check out the article for yourself, go ahead, but I'm using these two quotes primarily. So it says, today Ubisoft has confirmed that this highly anticipated patch is finally ready for its public debut and will be hitting the PS4 tomorrow, November 26th, 2004. Remember, this was 2 years ago. It says the patch will make its way to PC and Xbox One owners within the next few days, presumably by the end of November. I'm not entirely sure when the patches were released for those two platforms, but there they are, and it's probably by the end of November. So they came out at practically the same amount of time. So yes, there is a patch now. It's fixed everything, and I'll show you the main changelog in a bit, but just give me another couple seconds. As far as this patch is concerned, it's a doozy. According to the notes on the Ubisoft forums, the patch fixes or tweaks over 300 items across all three platforms. There are some fixes geared specifically at AI, some geared at gameplay, and dozens focused on matchmaking and connectivity. That's a big area in our book, because co-op was such a big selling point for Unity prior to launch. Unfortunately, getting into a match with friends is not without hiccups. So obviously there's still some problems, but then again, Unity wasn't very well developed. But here's the changelog that I found on the same article, just under that second post. Kabam! So here's the stability and performance changes and tweaks that they've made on their site, on their game. So they've fixed 90 various low-produced crashes, and they've fixed also some specific frame rate drops, including the drops while Arno climbs on RHP buildings and pressing the left stick forward somewhere that's not climbable. They've fixed a lot of things, and they've done a lot. It's a big step forward, but the game still is, in my opinion, probably the worst developed Assassin's Creed game in the history of Assassin's Creed. According to the launch and everything, it was terrible, it was garbage, but they fixed most of the problems on both platforms, so you can't really use Assassin's Creed Unity as an arguing point, although I might give you some leeway because you posted this, I believe, before the patch was released, but I've got my eyes on you, sir.
The game was a mess on PC.
Oh, don't single out PC. It was a disgusting garbage train wreck of a game on PS4 and Xbox One as well. Don't you dodge that fact.
And that's because the majority of people that matter game on consoles.
Yeah, let the antithesis of your ethics and morals stand out, dumbass. You just stated that you were superior and you matter more than the people on PC gaming. Do you not hear what's coming out of your mouth? Do you not interpret it?
Okay? So developers don't care to appeal to the PC community so much.
This secondary source on GameSpot says otherwise. Posted 5 years and 7 months ago. I'll link it in the description so you can read it for yourself, and I'll just talk while you read it here. I won't read it aloud. Here's the thing. DICE admits that console games are trying to choke the PC. They're trying to bring it down with them. Okay? Consoles are objectively inferior. At this point, arguing it is like burning a dead horse now. So, console games, or consoles in and of themselves, are objectively inferior platforms. But that means that they also hold back the PC. Sony, for example, when Ubisoft made Watch Dogs, the E3 graphics looked superb, alright? However, in the main game, when they released it, they don't offer you those graphics. They strip them out. And that's because there's a lot of thought going around, but the rumor is that Sony paid them a lot of money to strip the graphics, so that way people wouldn't say, oh, look how objectively better it is on PC. Although it was their original goal to build it and make it look perfect on the PC. It was stripped. Console games are holding PC games and PC in and of itself back. Everybody's trying to get on the side of the consoles. However, it is an objectively inferior platform, and if companies continue to interfere with companies like DICE and Ubisoft, they're going to make these developers shoot themselves in the face when they make these new games. It was false advertising, and I really hated myself for buying into the hype that Watch Dogs created. I was lied to, and so was so many other people. So were so many other people. They were all lied to. They showcased off these really great graphics and then never delivered. And so, by the way, guys, if you're thinking on purchasing Watch Dogs 2, keep that in mind. Make sure that you do your research before you even think about buying that game. You gotta make them earn your money. You have to make them earn what you spend. They have to provide a quality product. And if they don't, refund it. Anyway, that was a tangent. My whole point is that two companies that come off the top of my head, DICE and Ubisoft, were completely stripped and held back because of console companies and console games. Therefore, what you said is false.
You know what I mean? It's always going to be consoles first and then PC second in the minds of developers.
No, you're just invading the minds of developers. They're not thinking that. Seriously, how hard is it to link to sources, to gather information, to do research? You've provided nothing so far. You've provided nothing. You haven't provided a quote from a developer. You haven't provided any useful information at all during your entire argument.
And one of the reasons for that may be, now I'm not saying this is it, but it may be just one of the reasons that so many PC gamers pirate games.
Whoa, that went dark quickly. You just drew a line between two completely irrelevant things. And first of all, let me just be honest here. If you're going to demean the PC gaming community, then obviously nobody's going to buy your game. But that doesn't mean everybody's going to pirate it.
I mean, do you guys remember when Far Cry 4 came out? There were a lot of PC gamers complaining about some stuff in the game not working right. And then the developers came out and said, hey, if you're having these issues, that means that you pirated the game.
And good on them for doing that. It's kind of fucking funny, too, because they all exposed themselves for being pirates. It was great. But yeah, developers try to protect their games. That's how they do it. I mean, they know piracy's a thing, so...
Because normal working versions of the game that people buy, we made sure don't have those problems, but we made sure that the pirated versions do have these problems.
They did this in an attempt to deter people from pirating their games, so I don't know what's all wrong about that.
And this is also the same Ubisoft who at one point said that what was it? I think over 95% of their games on PC that people play are pirated.
You know, the reason why people ask so much for you to cite your sources is so people can go back and double check on what you're going from. I don't believe you're lying, although I do believe you're getting misled. Therefore, you need to cite your sources because some of them are obviously not reputable enough.
That's insane. And then you look at the recent sales numbers for Titanfall. EA says the game has sold over 7 million copies on PC, Xbox One, and Xbox 360. Meanwhile, Respawn in the past have said that they had over 10 million players on Titanfall. What does that mean?
Oh, I don't know, maybe multiple accounts were created just for, having problems, maybe, because Titanfall is sort of an MMO sort of thing. People had alt accounts. That could be a reason. Just these two facts don't really add up.
It means that 3 million pirated the game on PC.
Or, as you later put in your description, used game sales can also account for that. Just because there's 3 million somehow games out in existence somewhere doesn't mean that it's all on PC.
So yes, PC has its fair share of problems, and it's largely because of pirates.
Okay, first of all, PC gaming is not directly impacted or conned because of piracy and pirates. In fact, I believe used games sales are worse than piracy in and of itself. Why? Because it costs money to make hard copies of the games and distribute them. Companies have to pay for making the game, they have to pay the royalty to Sony and Microsoft, and among all this, they also have to pay for the budget to make the game before even making any profits. So, after the first initial waves of mass distribution of these console games, many people start using them, and this leads to a lot of more people selling the game because they want resale value after they've played it. This doesn't help the developers financially in any way. Used games do not help the developer because it goes back to either GameStop or the person that sells them. It doesn't go back to the developers in any way. So, and another thing is a lower used price is more appealing than a hefty new $60 price for new games, which leads to a lot more lost sales because hard copies not sold, is more money to make before profit. It adds to that amount before profit. So there are only a limited amount of hard copies in games, meaning stealing a video game making used video games or buying a used video game. It directly affects the company's sales in a quantifiable way. On PC, with infinite supply of digital distributions available, it is harder to quantify the number of lost sales due to it not having a direct and negative impact on costing the company money in terms of manufacturing the copies of the game. So if you want to talk piracy, you should get your priorities checked, buddy. Oh, and before you move on to your next point, I wanted to bring up a couple things concerning piracy here. And if you think that PC gaming is costing developers a lot of money for any reason, think again. According to this DFC Intelligence poster thing, PC gaming is on the rise by the billions. It is incredibly profitable to play on PC. And apparently there's no such thing as piracy on console, but there is such thing as used game sales. That's why it's going down like that. Whereas PC sales, they're going up. And you might ask yourself, why are they going up if so many people pirate video games? Well, a majority of PC gamers, according to only 50,000 responses in a PC Gamer article and poll, 64% of them don't pirate PC games. That's the red there. They don't. But of the 35.8% that do pirate video games, remember this is 35% of the 50,000. So of the 50,000 people that answered, 78 of them are 10 or younger, 2,000 of them are 11 and 15, and a majority of them, a ton of them, are 16,711. Now, it goes down after that. So it shows that only young people who don't incredibly understand the effects of piracy on video games in a larger scale, they're the ones that are doing it. Of course, the 60 plus thing is probably a joke, but still. Now take this next statistic with a grain of salt because the question was a bit oddly worded and didn't provide an answer to as if you didn't ever pirate a video game in your life. So I believe that's part of the 11.4 that said they never do anything, but I'm assuming that they thought that that answer meant that they never pirated a video game. Anyway, a majority of them, more than 50% of the time, purchase PC games after pirating them. So they do have good intentions. Maybe they want to demo it. This next statistic shows the reasons for piracy by age. A lot of them are 11 to 15 and 51 to 60. Those ones you could try to take with a grain of salt, but here's more or less what it is. A majority of them can't afford the game, or they're trying to demo the game, as I said previously. And there's a lot of other reasons. There's DRM to it, they don't like the publisher, it's too expensive. I don't know why they did that, because can't afford, too expensive, I don't know. But there's a lot of reasons why people pirate games. They're not criminals, they're not bad people. They just sometimes even have legitimate reasons for pirating. I by no means support piracy, but all I'm saying is it can be understandable why someone would pirate a video game. Even though my stance on it is if you can't afford it, don't fucking buy it.
Okay? Now, moving on from that to another point that's kind of connected to it. Consoles don't really have complications. Everything, it's that one piece of hardware, and developers deal for that specific type of hardware, and that's it. You don't have 100 different types of PlayStation 4s the way you can have hundreds of different types of PCs.
Choices are not a bad thing, and don't you dare bring up optimization again, because according to this last point, a couple points that I made before, Unity was terrible on the console, and a lot of other games were. So don't bring up optimization, because it's worthless. It's pointless at this point. I would rather do something with my hardware to make the game run better. I wouldn't rather just accept what's given to me by the developers. All optimization is the developers setting your graphics settings for you. That's all optimization is. So having everything set for you is bad. Having everything set for you provides no choices. If you know what your hardware can do, then you gotta set your settings down, right? You set your settings a lot down for yourself. But you have the choice to mess with your settings on PC. You have the choice to change your hardware. So if a game doesn't work on your hardware, you can change your hardware, or change the settings, or even troubleshoot. It doesn't take that long, and I don't know why people keep saying, oh, this is so hard, PC gets a negative point for being able to choose.
All these different drivers, graphics cards, all that type of stuff.
I mean, come on, you're like saying you don't want to choose your own car, you don't want to choose how you live your life. Deal with choices.
So, you have an easy, simple, basic, solid.
Easy, simple, basic, solid. All of these words are buzzwords, loaded words that Sony and Microsoft use and throw around to make you feel like the console is worthwhile. Okay? It is not simple, it's restrictive. It is not solid, it's also restrictive. It's chosen for you. You get what you get, and it's on terrible hardware. It's not... What else did you say? Oh, you also said basic. Basic. Yeah, basic interface. Basic, you can't do a lot with it. It's not usable in many different areas. That's the controller for you. You've got limited, restricted, basic controls on a controller. Whereas on a PC, you have more, maybe complex, but you can do a lot more with a keyboard than you can with a controller. It's not basic, it's restrictive. Stop throwing buzzwords around.
setup with consoles. You end up with a very solid gaming experience on consoles.
Yeah, a solid 30 FPS and a solid sub 1080p resolution on basic, restricted hardware. See, this goes back, okay? I can use the same words to negate what you're saying.
Because everything has to be structured for that specific piece of hardware.
And that's why games are running like garbage on your piece of shit hardware. That's why. Is because games have to tailor to the ridiculous inferiority of consoles. They have to tone down the graphics of the game. They strip back from the game. They don't add to them.
Whereas with PCs, because of so much variety, you can have tons of complications.
See, you're comparing two completely irrelevant things again. Okay? Just because we have a lot more choices does not mean that our games run more complicated, or it's more hard to run, or it takes more work to do. That's not the case at all. If you've touched a PC, you would know that, and you wouldn't be biased. And yes, you said you were unbiased. You're saying everything in misinformation, you're trying to mislead all your viewers. This is biased right here. And the more and more I hear about this nonsense bullshit that you're spewing out of your mouth makes me think that you haven't even touched your computer yet, and the only reason you included that was to add credibility to your argument. That doesn't work like that, okay? You have to show some proof. You have to give your experiences. What have you done? Okay, what are your specs?
That's one of the reasons that there were so many different issues with Unity on the PC. And moving on to my last point, going about games, Assassin's Creed Unity being a multi-plat, you don't really have a lot of exclusives.
Fucking facepalm.
On PC, at least that are worth it.
Oh, now you're trying to tell other gamers what games are worth now, huh? Alrighty then, let's see, how much is Gary's Mod worth? How much is Battlefield 4 worth to you? Okay? Now listen, I'm not gonna name AAA exclusives on the PC, you can look it up yourself. But here's the thing, it's not even your place, you don't get to tell other gamers what games are worth it and what aren't. The only thing you can quantify is how many exclusives we have, and you don't want to fight that battle, trust me.
With consoles, you have tons of high-quality exclusives that people all over the place, are championing as being some of the greatest games ever made.
And it's a shame that they are exclusive. Wouldn't you think that other gamers should be able to enjoy it as well?
And I don't think it's any coincidence, and my buddy Dobby Potter has made tons of videos about this, that so many PC fanboys are making petitions begging for these different exclusives on consoles.
Wow, you did not just fucking say that. Okay, let's think about it this way. You're white and you cannot play on the PS4. You can only play on the Xbox One. You wouldn't say, wow, that's bullshit. You wouldn't argue, you wouldn't do anything, you would just accept it? Like, oh, I guess it's, not available, I can't play on the PS4 because, I'm white. What is there to do? I mean, there's nothing I can do about it. I can't start up a storm and try to get people to say, okay, I want to play on the PS4. Well, it's the same thing for PC, right? PC gamers want to play Bloodborne. They want to play all these different exclusives like The Last of Us. They want to play these different exclusives on console. Okay? Just because they're PC gamer doesn't mean they shouldn't be able to play The Last of Us, Gears of War, all these different other good exclusives that the console has. That's like saying, you're white, you can't attend this top-rated school, okay? You'd be like, well, why not? It's because I'm white. Why are you kicking me out? This is bullshit. Like, that's the same mentality PC gamers have. You need to get it through your skull that encouraging this bad company behavior, that you're excluding games on the console. By the way, that makes your console no better. Okay? That just makes the games good. The consoles, the hardware, is holding the games hostage. That's the only reason to get a console nowadays. Begging my ass. I swear to God, some people. Exclude them. Exclude the PC gamers. No, they must not play our awesome games. And when reversed to a different situation, it can be, oh yes, exclude the white men from this console, because we can't have their grubby little mitts all over them. It makes no sense to bar certain gamers from certain games. It makes no sense. If your console was really that good, then they wouldn't need exclusives. Just like how PC doesn't need exclusives to remain relevant at this point, like consoles do.
You know, I mean, you look at games like Uncharted 4, The Last of Us, God of War, Days Gone is looking amazing. I can't wait to play that.
Now look, all triggerness aside, with PC there's a lot of exclusives. There's more games than I know what to do with. So I can live without playing The Last of Us, I can live without playing God of War, I can live without playing all these different exclusives, but other people might not be. Alright, and the fact that you're bragging about these sort of games gets people to want to play those and want to ask for those. But some people just don't want to buy a $200 hardware, a $200 console, just to play a $60 game. They don't want to do that. They don't want to have a specific console just to play a game. And again, what if somebody's more used to playing games on keyboard than on a controller? What if they don't want to play with a controller? What if they truly believe that their aim and whatever will be hindered using a controller? See, that's why people want games on PC as well, is because if your console was that good, you would not have to use exclusives as a reason to get on the console. I guarantee you that if PlayStation, if Xbox, they all released their exclusives, that nobody would buy a console, because there would be no reason to. It would be PCs, because they are objectively and quantifiably more superior.
You know, Gran Turismo, Ratchet & Clank, The Last Guardian, you know, all these great exclusives on PlayStation, and then Nintendo as well. Don't forget, Nintendo's got 3D Mario games, you got Zelda, you got Smash Bros, you got Mario Kart, a lot of great games on Nintendo platforms as well. Even Xbox, before, you know, Halo and Gears were exclusive, no longer, but
two less reasons why to buy an Xbox now, huh?
Yeah, at one time they were, and you know, you don't really have these big name games on PC that are exclusive.
By big name, I'll assume you mean AAA titles. And yes, there are a ton of AAA titles that in genres you can't even play. RTS, MOBA, MMO, what's that game called? I don't know. Air combat games like Starfighter and Stargate, Civilization 5. You cannot play certain games, but they're all AAAs pretty much, right? AAA or indie, there's two different categories. But there's not as many, there's a lot of indie games, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of big developer company games as well on the PC. But the reason most of them aren't recognized is because they're part of genres that don't interest a lot of people. But objectively, on the PC, you have access to more and more and more and more genres than the console will ever be exposed to ever, solely for the fact that they have a console controller instead of a keyboard. Like, literally, that is the restricting factor. You can't even play Civilization because you're on a console.
You know what I mean? And that's the biggest problem with PC at the end of the day, is that it doesn't have exclusives that are worth it.
Exclusive games is not a determining factor in whether or not a certain platform is good. It only means the game is good, okay? So stop telling everybody that, hey, you don't have an exclusive, so that's not how it works, okay? A platform is good because a platform is good. Again, you're some idiot on the internet telling what games are worth it and what aren't. This is ridiculous. Again, there are games you can't even touch, genres you can't even play on console. So don't even give anybody that argument that AAA titles aren't on PC, because they are. It's just a lot of them are on lots of different genres of video games. Not all of them have to be on FPSs. Not all of them are these well-known video game titles, especially since you only know a little bit of video games that are out there, a minute amount of video games out there, because you don't play on PC. You don't get the whole idea, the whole concept of these grand amount of video games that we have on PC. The only things you guys play is TPS, FPS, and sometimes MOBA.
Okay. For me personally, the only PC exclusive that I got was Metro 2033. And that ended up coming to consoles later on as well.
Good. See, unlike you, I'm glad that people are being exposed to new video games.
So, there's just not that much on PC in regards to exclusives.
Alright, well you said your false ass point over and over and over again. Shut up. Saying it more doesn't make it right.
There's just not. I mean, as far as quality goes.
Which, fuck you if you think you can determine what quality is on an objective level.
Sure, you may have these bad indie games here and there, but you see the reviews on Steam. These games are not good.
So you're talking about games like Party Hard, Hotline Miami, and Hatred, awesome twin stick shooters. Then you've got Rust, a great survival game that compares with no other. And you can't play that on console, unfortunately. Gary's Mod, infinite customizability and modding support with that game. Makes it fun every time I pick it up. It's one of my most played games. Super Hot, time only moves when you do. Do you get a trend here? These are interesting titles.
So, that's really it. I mean, PC doesn't have worthwhile exclusives the vast majority of the time. They have all these other issues.
All these other issues is A, something that doesn't really affect you in any way, i.e. piracy. 2, you've got you don't want choices. You just don't want choices. That's another problem with PC. And 3 is the amount of exclusives on PC. And again, you're wrong on that. You don't want to be fighting that. There are so many more exclusives on PC, and you cannot quantify it objectively by the quality of it.
You know? So, next time you have these PC nerds that feel the need to rag on console peasants, yeah, I think you need to slap them with some information.
Oh, like all the examples, data, statistics, and graphs that you use to slap me in the face. Oh, that hurt, I guess.
To shut them up, because they're really getting out of hand right now.
I won't speak for anybody on this matter. If they're getting out of hand, then that's just them and them only. That's not the reflection of the community. There's a lot of people in the console community that also, like yourself, spread lies about the PC. Do we need to keep you guys under control?
These PC nerds, and like I said, I'm ashamed at times to call myself a PC gamer because of these clowns.
Well, I'm a PC gamer. I play hundreds and hundreds of games on PC, exclusively on PC as well. I have a lot of experience with PC gaming. So, I'm not afraid to admit it. Don't let your group define you, okay?
So, that's it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching. Keep it frosty.
Alright, let me do a quick summary of my points so far. 1. PC gaming is customizable and provides you options. Options this guy is obviously not willing to take because he believes that providing options causes complexity and a lot of these problems. I don't want to deal with these problems. You can troubleshoot your problems on your own on PC. You don't have to have a third party help you. Okay, you can change out your hardware if the game doesn't work with your hardware, or you can troubleshoot problems on Reddit or Stack Exchange or whatever, and you can get solutions yourself. You can fix your own games. You don't need someone else to patch the game for you. 2. PC gaming is not in any way affected by piracy in and of itself. PC games have made more revenue in the past years than console games have. as I've shown in my statistics. Three platforms, whether PS4 or Xbox or PC or Nintendo or whatever, those platforms are not defined at all in any stretch of the imagination by their exclusives. They're defined by their performance, by the benefits to the user, and actual reasons about the console why it should be bought. Is it innovative? Is it a step up from the gaming industry? Is it a good turn on video games? Is there something about that console you literally cannot do with another platform? See, these are things you have to think about when you're buying a console game, or a console platform, sorry. When you're buying a console platform, you don't think about, how many exclusives are there? That's not something that comes to mind. Again, it is so important to do your research. It is so important to cite your sources. It's important to do research in the first place instead of pulling shit out of your ass. Alright, with that, I'll leave you with a goodbye. See you in the next episode. See ya. Bye. Whatever.